We're very lucky to have today a chance to talk with Pedro Oliveira, who was one of the founders of Patient Innovation. Pedro, thank you so much for talking. Perhaps you could begin just by explaining the kind of dream you had, the value proposition when you first thought about patient innovation.
Thank you, John. So before studying patient innovation or user innovation, I was actually interested in innovation at large. And I was intrigued by the fact that when we study innovation, we typically ignore the users as sources of innovation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was trying to relate my work with the work of Eric Van Nippel and was very intrigued by this. When you look at statistics, you don't see users in the statistics.
Yeah.
So before studying healthcare, we actually studied banking. We wanted to study services, different types of services. And I was very curious because even in services like banking, we could find that quite often users are able to innovate. Then we moved to healthcare. And in healthcare, it was on one side amazing because we found so many cases. On the other side, we realized that this makes a lot of sense because guess what? If the need is the mother of invention, then basically patients are in a very special situation to innovate, right? Because they face a lot of different needs. So there we go. That should be a very fertile field for innovation. So in a way, we wanted to uncover all that innovation that we believe that it's out there. We were not sure if it was out there. So that's why we put together this platform for patients to share the solutions that they develop for themselves. And this was amazing because suddenly people start sharing to an extent that really surprised us. And they keep sharing it until today, right? On average, we get now 3 submissions per day, 3 innovations that we then analyze and eventually approve. Our medical team makes a decision about those. And so in a way, the idea was to show that there is all this potential. And you asked me about the dream. I mean, the dream would be to have, say, an ecosystem of innovations, of companies that are created or co-created by patients. And this sounds a bit crazy, but, well, doable, something that eventually we can do because there's a lot of good stuff out there that is being developed by the patient themselves.
Amazing. And you've really started to answer my second question, which would be 5 years on, about 1 million people have visited and worked with the site. You're getting 3 suggestions a day or 3 ideas a day. What have you learned about user innovation in this space?
I think we have learned a lot. First of all, there's a lot of user innovation. We also understand, I think, the difficulties that these patients face when they basically try to solve something. The fact that these guys don't even see themselves as innovators. Sometimes they develop amazing solutions, but they never really consider themselves innovators or entrepreneurs until someone tells them. Right? Oh, you developed something really cool. Congratulations. Like, really? Because I was just trying to solve my problem, right? They are living their lives, and as patients, they have difficulties that they have to overcome every day. So, yes, so it's interesting because they are for sure not your typical innovators. They are for sure not your typical entrepreneurs. They don't even know what we are talking about when we use this language. So I think we have learned a lot about what drives them to innovate, what are the barriers that they face, what's the process, because of course not everyone goes ahead and immediately starts developing a solution.
Sure.
In fact, the first thing that they do is to search. There's a lot of search involved when you actually do realize that you have an health problem. Before you do something, you search for solutions. We have patients that go every day to our site. And if you think about it, this is remarkable, right? It's actually bad news for us. In a way, it's good because we have many visitors. But on the other side, if you go to one place, our site, every day, the chances that you'll find something are very reduced, right? But this tells you that the amount of search for solutions that could work, that patients in desperate situations actually are doing, it's amazing, and we can't ignore that. We should pay attention to the amount of search because that gives you a lot of information. So I think right now we have a good understanding of what is driving these patients to innovate. Sometimes not the patient, but the caregiver, someone that takes care of the patient, the mother, the father. So I would include all of those in this group. And we are starting to have a good understanding of what could be the system that could help these patients to actually do more than just innovate for themselves, but actually move this forward and bring this solution to the market if they want.
So that very nicely anticipates my last question. What next? You've built this very successful in the sense of people use it and are helping each other. So it's successful in social value. It exists. What comes next? And I think you've started to answer that. Now you understand the system. What other bits of the system do you need to put in place?
So you see, in a way, what we have been doing is to listen to people. One of the things that we have realized is that lots of patients come to us and ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
They say, oh, you work in a business school, you know about entrepreneurship and about innovation.
Yeah.
Why don't you help me bringing this solution to market? I mean, they probably would never use these words, but that's what they mean, right?
Yeah.
And we have many requests like this. Now that you tell me that this innovation is very cool, I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Could even be that I want this to be commercialized by an existing company, but I still need help for that conversation to happen with the company. Yeah. So, because so many people have been asking for help, we have been thinking hard about ways in which we can help. Yeah. In some cases, we can help by training the people. Mm-hmm. I mean, because guess what? When we talk to patients, they don't understand the language of entrepreneurship and innovation.
Sure.
We tell them you have to develop you have to protect intellectual property, and they, what's that, yes. Right? So what we have been developing on one side is the boot camp. So the hope is that we will bring many of our innovators to a boot camp that will be organized by Copenhagen Business School together with partners in Lisbon, in Barcelona, and also in Copenhagen, with the hope and aim of training some of the most promising patient innovators so that they can actually become patient entrepreneurs. Yeah. And many of them are already doing this. We want to sort of increase the overall impact of the phenomena by having more people doing this. I mean, both by actually developing companies by themselves or eventually by commercializing this via existing companies. But still, there's something that we need to do to help because, you know, many of these patients are not ready to engage in a conversation with a big player to discuss intellectual property protection or I want to buy or license your technology. They don't know what this means. So we want to help in different ways. So training them will be one of the ways. For many of them, this will just be the beginning of their process, and probably they will need, say, a physical space where they can actually develop the company. So we have been talking with partners in different parts of Europe, and not just Europe, to actually have incubators that sort of address the problems that these patient innovators have. And that's something that you will probably hear about soon. We are working with, in particular, universities in the UK as well, that could help us in this process. So that's something that we have been doing. We keep doing something which is to raise the interest in the phenomenon. We do events that eventually bring people to patient innovation. For instance, every year we do the Patient Innovation Awards. This tends to be a big ceremony in which we bring some of the most promising innovators and recognize them because they have innovations that are making an impact already. We have innovations that have saved many lives. So you see, our board basically looks at the impact of some of these things, and we every year give 6-7 awards to these innovators. And the idea is that right now we have 1 million visitors per year. And in one way, this is a lot. On the other side, this is very little, because the bad news is that we have millions of patients out there. If our numbers are right, and we did some surveys in which we realized that, say, in Portugal, 8% of the patients have developed solutions that are new to the world, as we call them. You know, let's be conservative. It's not 8%, it's 4%. Or even 2%, right? If 2% of the patients around the world develop something new, and I'm now being very conservative, I mean, that's a huge amount of amazing solutions that should be shared, should be brought to market, even eventually freely shared with others, because many times patients are willing to share. But we have to do something to increase the impact of these innovations that people develop for themselves, but in the end could be helpful for many others.
Yeah. Pedro, that's fascinating. It's a journey that's already making some fascinating progress. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and we'd like to come and talk again in the near future to hear the next stages on that journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.